Welcome to the Freedom Education Movement workshop, and the very first one is Face the Fear. I want you to ditch the stress of not doing school right and gain the confidence to design an educational path that creates happy hearts, healthy minds, and passionate learners. And the reason I titled this Face the Fear is because I believe we all have fears, and I don't think that we ever reach a point in our life, especially as parents, where there's not going to be some internal fears in our life about our kids. And so we can't get rid of the fears. We can't erase the fears. But what we can do is we can face the fears, and we can learn how to address those fears, how to not let those fears overcome or overtake us. And that is what this workshop is about. It's about facing those fears when it comes to education for our kids, when it comes to homeschooling or creating some kind of learning experience for our kids other than the traditional education system that we're so used to. So in this workshop, I want you to get ready, get excited, because you're going to be able to face the fears so that you can do what you need to do and become who you need to be a champion for your kids' education. So the first thing I want you to do is take a minute. And if you don't have anything to write with, you can go ahead and go grab something right now. You can put some notes in your phone. However you want to do this, you can pause this. And I want you to take a minute, and I want you to write down some of your fears, current or previous, that have to do with your kids' education. It can be fears about the public school. It can be fears about homeschooling. So just think about what kind of fears are you facing when it comes to homeschooling. What's holding you back from homeschooling? What is driving you to decide to take your kid out of public school and homeschool? Whatever it is, write down some of those fears for me. And you can just pause this while you write, and I'm going to give it just a second, and then I'm going to move on. So I know some of the most common fears are, what if I don't have what it takes? What if I get mad or frustrated or angry? What if I'm too organized? What if I'm over-organized? What if I don't know enough or I'm not qualified enough? What if I struggle? What if my family, my friends, my community don't agree? What if I'm just really scared I'm going to fail? I know that we have a lot of these fears, and so I'm going to kind of address some of these fears, and I want to just encourage you and let you know that, guess what? What if we're all afraid? We are. Okay, what if you're not the only one? All right, you're not the only one, I promise. So at some point, all of us are afraid. And, there's always going to be those special people, I think, who they have their ducks in a row and they don't doubt any decisions they make. But they're kind of rare, and honestly, I can't relate to those people because I do have a lot of fears for my kids. And I'm going to guess that if you're here taking this class, it's probably because you're like me. Most of you get it. The fear is real. So I just want to encourage you again that we're all afraid. And I can't promise that you're not going to have fears, but what I'm going to do is help you shift those fears so you can face them and use them to your advantage. It's all about perspective. So don't look at trying new things as scary. Look at it as an adventure. There's beauty in the freedom of trying something new and doing something different. Scary, to me, is sitting here and being too scared to move, being paralyzed by fear of never being able to create an environment or experiences for our kids that empower them and ignite passion and motivation for learning and exploration. Fear is not helping my kids be able to access those neural pathways in their brain that link to creativity and to trying new things and exploring. And I will geek out on the brain stuff all the time. I love neuroscience, but we'll talk more about that later. So, scary to me is not trying something new or doing something different. Scary to me is not doing that for my kids. Scary to me is leaving them in an environment that I know is hurting them. That is something I'm more afraid of than I am breaking free and trying something new. So, I want you to kind of shift your perspective and change what, instead of being afraid of everything that you're going to do wrong, be afraid of all the things that are going to be wrong if you don't do this. Can you work with that? It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have fears. But if you have the tools to fight the fear and face the fear for your kids and their future, can you use that? That's courage. And I believe you're here because you're ready, because you do have that courage and it's in you. It's ready to come out. You're ready to face the fear. You're ready to be courageous and become champions for your kids' hearts, their minds, their learning, their futures, all that good stuff. Okay? You've got this. So to help you kind of shift that thinking, what if? Instead of thinking, what if I don't have what it takes? What if you say, what if I meet my kids' individual needs? Instead of thinking, what if I get mad or frustrated or angry? What if you say, what if I build their self-esteem? Instead of saying, what if I'm too unorganized or I'm overly organized? Change that to, what if I teach my kids practical life skills? Instead of thinking, what if I don't know enough? I'm not qualified enough. I struggle. Change it to, what if I make learning meaningful? Change, what if I struggle, to what if I learn to be flexible? Think about, what if my family, friends, and community doesn't agree? And switch that to, what if I make new supportive friends that do agree, that do understand, that are doing what I want to do? If you can change, what if I'm just really scared I'm going to fail? Instead, say, what if I use failing as a learning opportunity instead of a weapon or a negative mark? We think of failing as this awful thing. But if you look at anybody who's been super, super successful in life, they will all tell you they had to fail to learn how to grow, to get to where they are. We are the same. Our kids are the same. There is room for failure. So don't fear failing. Fear not trying. Fear not being able to change or shift if something's not working. Most of these same issues teachers in the classroom have. Have you ever thought about that? So you're afraid of that as a parent, but you know what? Teachers have these same fears when they walk into a classroom. What if I don't have what it takes this year for this group of kids? What if I can't meet their needs? You're not any different than these classroom teachers that you think that you're not going to measure up to. Really, what I want you to know is, what if you rewrite your fears? What if you take those negatives, those what ifs that have been filling your mind, and you replace it with those new and improved positive what ifs? What if you face the fear? It's the most amazing and life transformational opportunity for your kids. I mean, honestly, the odds are in your favor. If you can compare what you could offer your kids versus the toxic, bully-filled, stressed out, teacher shortage public school system that isn't working for your kids. What if you can change your kid's life or even save it because you learned how to face your fears and then you taught them how to? You can do it. So here are my tips for facing the fears. So first, I want you to figure out what is driving your fears. So if you look at your list, do you see any common themes? I mean, are there fears? Are they related to your own insecurities? Maybe this is a great opportunity to do some self-esteem and mindset building activities for yourself and with your kids. It's a struggle. I went through it with myself, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this workshop. It's one of the first courses that I'm actually offering students, and it's all about mindset and how to mend your mindset. So facing your fears, figure out what's driving your fears, figure out if there's a common theme, and try to face those. Do what you can to work through those fears. My second tip for facing the fear is to surround yourself with people, programs, and groups that will support and encourage you. You are not meant to do this on your own, and you don't have to. There's so many people who've been doing this for years who really want to help support others on the journey. The irony is that the homeschool community is one of the most supportive yet divided groups out there. And what I mean by that is kind of think about like churches. So the goal of the traditional American church is to bring together people for fellowship and encouragement, support, and love. However, there are a ton of different types of churches and denominations out there because while the concept of the church is the same. The theology and the styles vary, and sometimes it varies by a lot. So the same thing happens in education. So you have to kind of find the place that fits your personal beliefs and style. But once you do, you're going to have access to a community that is never going to leave you alone to figure out this on your own. They're going to be an amazing community, just like churches are for the people that go to churches. When they find the right church, it's amazing for them. When they find that right community, and you can do that in the homeschool community. And that's part of what this workshop does, is help you figure out what those different types of styles and methods and theology and education is, so that you can connect with the right kind of community. Because once you find it, it's fantastic. All right, and my last tip is take time to figure out what style, methods, and systems you feel confident with. Okay, again, once you figure that out, you can find that community. And I know that it's super overwhelming, especially when you're first getting started, to try to figure everything out. Okay, it's totally normal. Pretty much anybody who gets into homeschooling or pulls their kids out of school goes through this overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So most people, the problem that I see is that most people tend to stick with what they're familiar with. So they're familiar with public school, so they try to recreate public school at home. But the problem is we do that in life. We go back to things that are familiar when they're not working. And it's just because that's how we're kind of like created, I guess. But it's not always a good thing to go back to what we're familiar with. Think about some relationships that you might have gone back to because it was familiar, but it was not a good idea. Okay, same concept. Just because you know how the classroom works and you know how public school grades work, doesn't mean you have to recreate that. So in Module 4, I'm going to go over these a lot more. So you keep going through the workshop, but I'm going to help you understand a lot of these styles and methods and systems. But you can, kind of start doing a little bit of research, but there's all kinds of stuff. You've got virtual schools, you've got workbooks, you've got following state standards, or you can create your own standards that you want your kids to learn. You can be very authoritative, or it can be very religious, or very secular, or very free-spirited, which is very much how I am. So once you feel like you have a good understanding of all these various options and styles and methods of teaching, then again, you'll be able to connect with the right kind of group, and you will have a lot more confidence in what you're doing. Because I believe that you can do this, okay? So the Face Your Fear is helping you overcome this fear, helping you see that you can create a child-centered educational experience that prepares and leads to a successful life at home. You can empower yourself, and once you do, you'll be able to empower your child to proudly follow their passions, chase their dreams, and become the amazing, unique person they were created to be. You've got to stop that endless frustration and move on. And once you understand their personality types, their learning styles, their love languages, what interest-led and passion-based learning looks like, you can create a learning opportunity that isn't just connected to your kids, but inspires and motivates them. Face the fear. Think about your fears. Go back through, rewrite your fears to be positive. You can go back through and write down some of the ones I had if you want. Make little sticky notes if you want to. And I want you to also think about creating a playlist. One of the best things that I do is I create music. I call it my motivational, inspirational music. And I'll share some of those in the Facebook group. But I love listening to really positive music because it helps my mindset. And I'm going to leave you with that and encourage you to move on to Module 2, which is Rethink, Refine, and Redo. And that's all going to go over the concept of deschooling and taking that time to disconnect and reprogram what you know and reprogram yourself with creating learning experiences that meet your kids' individual needs. Okay, you've got this. Don't give up, and I'll see you in Module 2.